Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on his way to Russia to hold a significant bilateral meeting with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. This visit has significant geopolitical implications, especially against the backdrop of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, as well as other global tensions. Now, this visit marks Modi's first visit to Russia since the Ukraine conflict began in 2022. In his departure statement, Prime Minister Modi emphasized the robustness of the special and privileged strategic partnership between India and Russia, which has seen advancements across various sectors including energy, security, trade, and people-to-people exchanges over just the last decade. This visit is important because this is also the first time that Prime Minister Modi has met President Putin since the 2022 Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. During that meeting, Modi memorably told Putin that this is not an era of war, which was seen as something of an admonition to the president. This visit is also important because of how much is at stake for both sides. First is economic cooperation. India and Russia have a long-standing history of economic collaboration, particularly in energy, infrastructure, and technology. In fact, India's oil purchases from Russia over the last couple of years have pushed bilateral trade to over $60 billion, and this has made Moscow one of India's top 5 trading partners. Cooperation on energy also includes projects such as the Kodanakulam nuclear power plant, which is a good example of how the two countries have worked together on nuclear power. Then of course there's defense, which is probably the best known part of the bilateral partnership, since so much of India's defense equipment comes from Russia. India has also agreed to major new purchases of defense equipment like the S-400 air defense missiles from Moscow. However, there's also another story here. Russia's share of India's defense imports has actually been steadily declining, growing from 76% in 2009 to 2013 to just 36% over the last 5 years. India is increasingly looking to manufacture things at home and also to diversify imports to include other countries. India's ties to Russia also enable it to balance its engagement with Western powers. This allows it to ensure that it isn't overly reliant on any single geopolitical bloc. And this flexibility is vital in a world where geopolitical alliances are fluid. Russia is also a key player in strategically crucial regions like Central Asia, which makes it important to India. All of this and more is likely to be discussed during Prime Minister Modi and President Putin's bilateral. However, there are also significant challenges in the bilateral relationship. There will undoubtedly be talks on the cases of Indians being forced to fight for Russia's military in Ukraine. In the last few years, Modi's actually skipped the annual India-Russia dialogue with Putin a few times, and this has led to speculation that India is actually trying to tone down its public association with Russia. This is because of Russia's clash with the West over the last decade. Western powers, led by America, have imposed crippling sanctions on Russia's economy after its invasion of Ukraine. They've also tried to diplomatically isolate Russia, which has put India in a difficult position since it wants to maintain close ties with Moscow while also cooperating closely with Western countries. There's also the China factor. Over the last few years, China and Russia have grown increasingly close and have even established a no-limits partnership. Both countries are deeply suspicious of Western powers, especially America. And since China and Russia have a similar desire to challenge Western power, they've grown increasingly close. China is now Russia's #1 trading partner, and Moscow is increasingly dependent on Beijing's economic support to continue its war in Ukraine. At the same time, India has had serious security concerns about China, especially since the Galwan Valley clashes in 2020. So to have its top defense partner share such a close relationship with China is undoubtedly worrying for New Delhi, and that is likely to come up in the bilateral talks between India and Russia. Modi's visit to Russia is really a statement of India's strategic balancing act between the West and Russia, which highlights its non-aligned strategy. As global tensions rise, this visit will be closely watched.